What is up, adventurers, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO video. In this one, we're going to be talking about, well, we love them, we love to hate them. I don't know. it's the crowd of people who is the everyday person. And if you're not this person, there are days when you are this person, and that is the solo player. I mean, it's kind of the nature of the game as we know it. And I have three major issues that I think are affecting those players the most that Blizzard desperately needs to attend to. Starting with Dungeon Deserter. This is the newest up and coming one that we've talked about a little bit here on this channel. And in this one, this person says, Dungeon Deserter shouldn't apply in LFR if you're locked out of the remaining bosses. I was running some LFR on alt this weekend and one of my queues popped into a wing already in progress with one boss killed. I killed the remaining boss. I left the instance, requeued just to kill the boss that I missed. Got into the raid again, this time a fresh start. I killed the first boss, left the instance group because there was no reason for me to stay because I had already killed the other boss. I still got Dungeon Deserter debuff, which I think is a bit silly. I think if you get put into an LFR instance that is already in progress, you should have some sort of grace period where you're not punished for leaving that specific wing or instance early. I mean, honestly, this seems like a pretty easy, like people will be like, all right, Blizzard W. Comments say, the funny thing is that if you do stay, that means less loot for the group if enough people are in the same situation. There was another thread here that mentioned how only a few items dropped from an LFR boss because of it. So if you leave, you get a deserter debuff. If you decide to stay, you might be making people have fewer chances at getting gear or transmog they might want. It's a lose-lose situation. Same thing happened to me to do an LFR wing twice because the first one I had one boss killed. It's like a domino, someone else left after the first boss, so I had to redo the first boss and leave because I'm not doing 2 full runs to get all bosses, so I had to wait 30 minutes before finishing LFR runs. I think what should happen is if you enter an LFR wing and you're saved to another for the 2 or 3 bosses or whatever in that wing, they shouldn't apply a deserter debuff. You literally deserted the party, so they had to fill your slot with another person who missed out on the first boss. Yeah, but what if the person who gets queued and only wants the second boss, which is why the system is broken, not a reason why people shouldn't be punished for abusing it. We used to have this, but it led to a handful of leavers completely killing that run. Anyone who joined would see the boss they already dead and then immediately leave, making the problem much worse than it is right now. Because before that, people whose queue popped had the ability to see how many bosses were killed. Under that system, groups with bosses down never refilled. I mean, they do bring up a valid point. I think that this, in a weird way, this connects to the what do they call the turbulent time waves, I guess is what it's called, with the whole buff system. I started doing some runs and I wanted to go in as a DPS, and I wasn't getting in a run, and so I went in as tank, went up immediately. In 2 of the groups I did today, they were already like, someone did boss 1 and something went wrong, or maybe someone got mad, and so I joined in mid dungeon. I don't really care. I mean, I just looking for the buff to get the achievement completion, etc. And doing so, I guess if I was like anybody, if I was someone who's needing it, maybe leveling, I would have been upset by that fact. But for some people, that lever, say they realize, hey, like, I don't need this buff anymore. Just because that's the case doesn't mean necessarily that it's everybody else's, like, now that's their burden to bear, because it was a tank who left. And so for that group, it could be a while before you get somebody else. Say your healer leaves because someone doesn't join quick enough. It's like it becomes eventually you're putting the burden on somebody else. So I mean, I do get where people are coming from and saying, well, if you make it this way, then people are just going to leave and it's not really going to matter. So it's like, it's a bit of a harder issue. Just do normal. Honestly, you can pop in and out of groups depending on the boss you killed need without having to worry about deserter debuff, and it's as easy as LFR with better gear drops. That's the spirit. Skip it. This would be fixed if you lockout reset for any LFR you had partially loot locked. It's not like LFR loot is super valuable and people can spam N+ all day for better gear. Yeah, there is simply better options. I would say most people are on the cusps of getting into some harder content without realizing it. But I think that, with things like single button rotation and being a thing, you may have more people joining, and it might be easier to get like pugs that just, they go, wait, why are we doing LFR? Considering that some single button rotations are doing better than 70% of people who do Mythic Plus. But at the same time, I feel like what happens is a secondary issue where you have so many people moving up, then those LFR or low Mythic Plus are just going to be totally abandoned. And there's not going to be a purpose for it. So now we squish Mythic Plus again, and now 10s are 5s and 5s are 1s. So it's a cascading effect. I feel like whenever you kind of you instead of going, let's bring the top down to you, we go, all right, let's move everybody to where the bare minimum, like brain dead level is able to do like high-end Mythic Plus or something like that. The solution is simple as it is. I know Blizz will never do it. You get filled for it LFR part way through. You get a personal loot roll on loot pot for the bosses that were down before you entered, and get a locked for the wing for all loot that comes in the chest at the end of the wing. There's just no other system that wouldn't spawn a train of levers because someone took the first napkin. Okay. But what exactly is it for? Punishment for leaving a party before the run is complete. The whole idea is to get people to put the good of the group over what's good for themselves. Exactly. I think that this is more of the solo mentality. I think has people thinking that, well, everyone's against me in this moment. But in reality, this whole dungeon deserter, like I can't stress enough that it really brings out the number of people who are like self-reporting, who go like, why am I getting a dungeon deserter? It's like, well, or why am I getting this like an LFR? It's like, well, you're deserting, so I mean, like, this is kind of something that you should deal with. so I mean I get what people are saying. I think there could be a instance here where maybe you're in a partial lock situation, and in this case they did the latter half first and then they did the first half second, so it's like didn't make sense for them to stay. But I think in an effort to stop the continuing, like, okay, then I'm leaving in the first half, and then so the next person joins, they're getting the latter half. I think it has to stop somewhere. So my system is always, instead of punishing people, reward them for staying. So I think that's always the better of the solutions. Let's stick with that as a way to prevent that continuing down the line. It's just easier that way, in my opinion. So let's just do that. Next one is it says at this point in the raid patch progression, why are they capping the amount of gilded chests one can get from delves at all? I've honestly thought about this one a lot as well. Like honestly, it's frustrating when you want to do, say, one more than 3, and you're just like, oh well, I guess I'm not going to get the extra bonuses from this. It's like, okay, do you want me to do a bunch of these, or do you want me to do a few of these and then move on? For some people, they want to do a bunch, so it's like, why make it punishing for them? The title doesn't make any sense to me. You can farm Mythic Plus all day and you hit the season total cap, but delves are capped at 3 gilded stashes per week, even on a freshly leveled alt. Aside from having a bountiful key system already, the gilded chest cap needs to be increased as the season goes along as well. I think this is the version of time gating. This is one of many examples that you could come up with that says there is a version of time gating that I think WoW players are actually okay with, and that is going, hey, I guess we're okay with logs, but releasing allowing all this data to just be posted and spammed on there just adds so little variety. Can we just kind of keep that stuff like not allowed for like the first month so we can get into it ourselves and appreciate ourselves before we just get all these meta specs, except for the people like who are actively building them themselves, like building these guys themselves and working. Like, you're not gonna stop it entirely, but can we stop like these big sites from having it so where it's not mass marketed day one or before even day one? Same thing with this. We're okay with there being with a limit, but can we like over time just like let off the brakes with those so it's not so hindering? So later on, you have the opportunity for players to catch up, but also if people just want to grind it, they can just grind it. It's not going to matter anymore if somebody has maxed out gear, because people have had plenty of time to get there. For some people, that constant like barrier is what stops them from going further. So we want people to play more. So why not just let off that up a little bit? So we're okay with time gating. I am okay with time gating in a number of ways, but let's, as the season progresses, either add things or add things to make things easier, or I guess more smooth in gameplay, or let off the brakes a little bit so there's less barriers. One of those two are the version of time gating I am okay with. Every other version of time gating is horrible. All right. This is not great. So they also mentioned, aside from having a bountiful key system already, the gilded chest cap needs to be increased. I agree with capping them on, early on. In addition, the overcharged delves would have the perfect chance to remove this cap. Also, the rework remove the bountiful key mechanic for the remainder of the 0.1 patch. So they're saying patch cycling, using that as a way to remove barriers as like a metric. If delves gave uncapped gilded crest, I suspect Mythic Plus participation would drop off a cliff, as delves would likely become the most efficient way to get gilded crest. Honestly, I disagree. I think that people who play Mythic Plus do not want to play delves. Like people who enjoy Mythic Plus usually don't want to go to delves for their version of content. But that being said, I think the way to fix that, what they're claiming, like if the gilded crest eventually match, like say like later in the season, they sort of match. You know, of course, I think it should always be less, but I think if they sort of match at a certain point, well, let's up the ante of the gear that we get at the end of the dungeon. I seem to have some missing slots, but at the end of the season, maybe I can be a little bit more selective. I'd be like, hey, I want boots to drop from here or something to where maybe I'm getting more gold from my runs. Maybe I'm getting more gear opportunities instead of just gold dropping, you know, or maybe I'm getting preference. You know, I can make sure there's certain things kind of like ping up or something like that. But all I'm saying is a system to where, well, let's just up the ante for delves as the season progresses as well, if we're going to do the same thing for delves. So that's all I'm saying. They do seem scared of letting delves actually be direct competitor to other game content. I don't think it ever should be. I mean, I think it's a silly thing to be like, oh yeah, delves should be in line with Mythic Plus. I think it should always be somewhat less. If we're going to stagger step and increase like how much we're doing for delves, then we should do the same thing for Mythic Plus. It's as simple as that. For those of you who think that delves need to outweigh or over like being more important, it's ridiculous. You can do a delve solo in less than 10 minutes in most situations. Mythic Plus is way more commitment time spent. Like I just think it's kind of silly to be like one should be over another. 7's aren't hard either. Yeah, anything like anything under a 10 is easy, but it's much more time consuming. And your gear, your gear matters a lot, right? You know, so like you spend a lot of time getting that. It is silly. I think it's a silly thing. Like I feel like people who do solo content are so desperate to make Mythic Plus feel like they're in the wrong about this. And to me, it's the single button rotation like enthusiasts who go like, this is an accessibility thing, but literally people with accessibility needs are going, this is not what we wanted. So all it is really is a way for people who are on high-end end game content, but it's high-end Mythic Plus, high-end rating, going, I want my people in my pug to be less bad at this. So one button assist, because you have high-end players who are going to refuse to do single button. They're not going to touch it. But the punishments for a single button rotation are not even enough to make it to where they're not performing well, because most people don't realize that their current skill level, they were maybe like doing their own thing. They have about 60-70% of their unlocked or the possible potential actually being performed in a dungeon or raid. And so with this single button assist, you have solo players going, now finally I can do this content, but they're actually overperforming with people who are doing their own thing, and it creates this ego. It creates this ego that like this false sense of ego where it's like, well, now we understand that we've been right all along, and everybody else who's been doing this other way has been wrong. I don't know. Let me know if I'm right. Like, let me know in the comments. I feel like this has to be, I don't think this is like a directly a delves thing, but I think the more we accommodate this, the less and less people are going, I'm going to use single button assist to actually learn the game. And they go, instead, they go, I'm not going to actively play the game at all. But I mean, there's only so many rewards I can get from delves. So, I mean, why not just get the same level of rewards from Mythic Plus? Like, let's go to that. That's where our battles must be fought. That's the new horizon that we need to fight against. And the last one here is actually kind of just what I was talking about. And this one says DPS output on retail is more balanced than ever, but You wouldn't know it by the way people worship the list. And I agree. I think people worship the list too much. Like I said, I think these lists and stuff like that and these guides shouldn't be postable, like an NDA type of thing, until, you know, at least until like a few weeks or something like that. I'm weirdly mad when people say things like, finally my spec is viable. When you get buffed from the 14th best spec to the 10th best, you're doing like 2% more damage. I play classic. The one thing that bugs me, I see a lot of TikToks about this. They'll show like those slight buffs and they'll be like now this is the spec. I'm like, why are we moving so soon? Like why are we jumping so soon to this? I played classic where we had like Shadow Priest and Red Paladin trying to raid and doing 1/4 the damage of the warrior, and on retail you see a colored graph and it says the other class does 3 mil DPS and yours does 2.8, so you have a meltdown and reroll. And the thing is, Blizzard loves these graphs, by the way. This is the graphs is just how they're like, we need these graphs. To me, those should be Blizzard's graphs, not our graphs. it's one of the most cringiest things, that the game could be so close in amount, but you're gonna have one spec be the meta and then everyone participates in the meta. And so what literally makes that spec worse is that they have people who don't know what they're doing playing a spec that they don't know, or a class that they don't know because they heard it was meta. And then it kind of brings it like the overalls, right? Like the overall numbers down for everybody. Like it's like it hurts itself in its confusion. You're doing like 2% more damage. Bold of you to assume people who say this are even doing anywhere near the max potential for the spec. Exactly, that's what I'm saying about the single button rotation. People don't realize when they're joining these metas and when they're playing the game that single button rotation is removing that thought for you and just literally giving you arthritis as you spam one single button, because there's no thought going into it. And so people don't realize when they're low on that thing, it's not because it's not because your spec is bad, it's because, well, you're bad, and that's fine. It's okay. You don't have to 100% optimally all the time do the right thing. I think that's part of learning and knowing the game. And so this next one says, one button all day, the future is now. Yeah. Can't wait for the one button tier list to stop. And they never even hit this point, either in terms of content difficulty or their own abilities, where their spec is actually holding them back. I know someone like this with S-Priest. It's never viable. Blizz never looks at it. Always needs a rework. I don't even remember the last time it was at the bottom half of the charts, or the last time it didn't receive some kind of balance change. Yeah, S-Priest must be going through it. I'm a diehard Feral main now. I have been for the last few expansions, and honestly have a blast with the game. It's frustrating not to get prior on pug keys. Oh yeah, priority on pug keys. But honestly, it's not too bad. I often see people go meta classes, be miserable and underperform, rather than play a class they have fun with and actually be good at it. Honestly, it's mind-boggling. Unless you're pushing for the world first stuff, or the 0.1% top content, these lists won't matter. And honestly, this is one thing that I cannot preach enough. And there's a video out there that I really want to react to soon about this, but I really cannot I cannot stress enough that solo players right now are in a brink, like solo and slash casual players are in like the brink of, I think, what is the most dangerous part of WoW right now, and that is the slippery slope that is current content being, I guess, not being trivialized by add-ons, because that's, I mean, it's somebody going away soon, right? Or going away later down the line, but being trivialized by literally WoW's own, like Blizzard's own attempts to make that content accessible. They say accessible, but what they mean is, we're not going to make our abilities or your rotations easier for you to understand. We want to keep things fast. We want to keep your momentum going. We don't want you to stop after you do delves and go, well, now I have to actually learn. Now I need to actually do research. I can't stand that either. Don't get me wrong. I hate that it stops it. I hate that you have to go outside it. I do not like that there's a thing about the game. But that being said, when those things are added, speed, the boost events, the amount of things like single button rotation that go, let's remove all brain power from the equation. Just slam button, you carpal tunnel, you build carpal tunnel over time, and then they'll be too slow to get rid of single button rotation because your wrist will hurt too much. When those things are released, everyone's like, yay! Like, and it's like, it's so weird that that people are going for this. It blows my mind. But that said, I 100%, I 100% agree with partial points in all of these. I get the thing about capping the gilded. I get the thing about dungeon deserter in LFR. I get the thing about balancing, how it's not as bad as people think it is. But in a lot of ways, these are self-inflicted curses, consequences that are instituted by Blizzard and then appreciated and loved by the solo and casual player base. And no one's hitting the right issue of complaint. They're not going, well, it's Blizzard's fault that they're not showing people the potential that they're missing within their class. Instead, they're going single button rotation. Don't worry about learning. It's too complex anyways. There's 10 passives on one ability. You're going to literally fry your own brain. They don't look at this and they go, well, yeah, we should let off the gas. They go, let's blame Mythic Plus instead. They don't look at this and go like, I should do what's better for the team. Or they don't go, how could Blizzard accommodate this better so it doesn't happen anymore? They go, let's just remove it, please. So this is why I feel like the ideas aren't necessarily flowing in the way that they should in the solo community, and the solo / casual / bugging community. By the way, I'm part of all three of those, and most people are part of all three of those as well. So I'm including myself, but at least I'm coming up with ideas so, and trying to present them in a way that's like, hey, there's a way around this actually that could solve this. It's just, I don't think we're looking at this the right way. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think is the biggest thing of these three that is affecting the game? And what are the ways that you think that we can solve them without just going, it's the player base's fault? Because there's something that Blizzard could do. You know, there's something that I know in your heart of hearts, your head of head, you can figure something out because you guys are smart. All my subscribers and people who like my videos are smart. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Of course, if you liked it, give it a like, subscribe to the page while you're at it. And as per always, I'll catch you on the next one with a little extra bit. I'm actually going to be gone for a little bit, at least in camera form. I'm having a major surgery. And last time, it took a few weeks. This time, we'll see. So, with that being said, I will still be trying to do content as I'm sort of recovering. And with that being said, of course, not to be morbid or dark, scary for me. This is something that's been bothering me for a long time. So hopefully this fixes some of the health issues I've been experiencing. But I really can't thank you guys enough for these guys and gals these past few months and the content I've been able to make and hopefully some sort of impact I've been able to make. So if this is the last one for a little bit, then I really do hope that you've enjoyed the content, you enjoyed your time here, and that you know, Blizzard continues to make positive change in the game like we've seen, but in the ways that the things that we haven't seen attended to quite enough. But until next time, catch you in the next one. Peace.